Yaritza, the podcast that dives deep into the inspiring world of women of color in the edtech industry. It's raw and authentic. There is no format, right? The best kind of professional development and conversations are those that are unscripted. Welcome back to InnovateHer, the podcast where audacity meets impact. I'm your host, Yaritza, and today's guest is currently the Learning Operations Lead at Endless Access, a nonprofit unlocking creativity, confidence, and digital skills through game planning and making. Before that, she led a global community of educators at Microsoft Flip, championing joy and student voice. And yes, she was once a middle school teacher. So y'all know already, she takes engaging young minds to the next level. Y'all, this is my friend Jess Boyce.
Hello.
Jess, kick us off. How are you currently feeling? And what part of your journey are you most excited about unpacking today?
Okay, I'm feeling great. I realized that as you were saying the intro, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is cool. I'm really proud of all of the things that I've had the privilege to experience in my professional career. And so, to be honest, I don't even know what I'm most excited about. I love that I have no idea what the questions are and we can just be real and talk through it, but just sharing how like a journey's not linear, you know?
Yes. Oh my God. And y'all, all right. If you're tuning in, I've known Jess for the past, oh my God, 6 years.
Yeah.
It's been 6 years. So for the
That's
past
crazy.
6 years, I actually met Joyce.
We
Jess.
say that's my alter ego because it happens all the time.
I know I don't like meshing the two together. Her name is Jess, not Joyce, even though it's Jess Boyce. Just in case y'all were thinking, don't do it. Actually met her while she was on the Flickr team. And at that time, I was still in the classroom. And then I began to do work with Flip. And from there, it's like we immediately connected. Jess is one of those people that, you know, if you're down, she notices it. She immediately will find a way to put a smile on your face. There wasn't anything about that team where like I'm just like I have to run to this specific person because they care. It was like everyone on the team cared, but everyone had like their own way of showing how much they care. With Jess, it was like a simple DM of, "Girl, are you okay? Because I see your face." That was Jess. So just in case, you know, you're wondering why we're giggling and why the smiles are here is because this is my girl, all right? And yes, we're going to be talking all things about her career path. But one thing that I would love for you all to think about is just how important building community and sustaining a community is, especially amongst women of color who are fighting this fight in this ed tech space or this tech field. I know I just got real serious, right? It went from like laughter to serious. But then that makes me want to like just dive in. And if you've been tuning into any of these episodes, you know I get straight to the point because I want people to know how you know you move from space to space. Jess, please, if you can take us through your journey, you moved from being a middle school teacher, in a middle school classroom, to leading operations at a game making nonprofit. First of all, right, I know some of what drove the leap, but if you could share with the audience what drove each leap within your career path.
Yeah. So, okay, I always knew that I was going to be a middle school math teacher, like from the jump. I actually had a really bad middle school math teacher when I was growing up. And I realized that that was the age where you either fell in love with math or you decided that you hated it. And so, and I think that the teacher plays a big role in that. And so I don't know, in my like 12-year-old brain, I was like, oh, I could do that better. I'm going to do that. And it was like I locked in, and that became my mission, was to make students fall in love with math. And that's exactly what I did. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I had this interesting opportunity to help start a tech magnet, a one-to-one magnet at my school. I worked for Title I schools always. And there was just this, buzz. This was 2016, something like that. And I've always been a person where I'm looking of how I can better myself, how I can grow and just learn, for sure that whole lifelong learner thing applies to me. And I remember even saying to my husband that I was going to start a tech magnet. And he was like, "You? That's funny," because I like really wasn't that techie, right? Partially like "Oh, you don't think I can do it? Well, guess what? Watch what I'm gonna do."
Hello.
Also, like, I knew that was an opportunity for me to grow too, and I was like, "Yeah, this is something that scares me and is going to be hard, and I'm gonna learn from it, and it's gonna be awesome." So, we started that, and it was really amazing. Somewhere along the line, I fell in love with Microsoft products. I was using them in my classroom. I had the opportunity to pilot Teams in my classroom when it first came out, all of these great things. Flipgrid. And it was very, like it was very serendipitous. I love looking back at my life and seeing how, like, all these little moments connect. But I was at ISTE in 2017. I was walking along the Riverwalk with John Bimmerly, and he was like, "Oh, there's the people from Flipgrid. Have you met them?" And I was like, "No." And so we went over and sat and just chit-chatted. And, I've never met a stranger, so we had an amazing conversation for an hour or so, and I was like, "Wow, not only is this a cool product that I've heard of, but the people behind it are really, really quality people." And so, when you believe in the people behind a product as well, it makes you fall in love with it even more. And so I started using it really aggressively in my classroom and just seeing the impacts that it had in my class with my students. Journey was this amazing woman who I looked up to, and she came and visited my class one time. And I remember having this kind of moment where I was falling in love with teaching teachers and running professional development and showing them these cool things that I was learning. Because I can't keep my mouth shut. If I see something that I like, I'm going to tell everyone that walks past
Right.
me. And so I had this moment where I was like, I think this is something that I would really like to do. Generally don't consider myself like, I mean, I'm a risk taker, but I'm not like super, super bold with things outside of my professional career. I'm like, maybe that's where the Jess versus Joyce comes in, right? So I get like really bold when it comes to that. And I remember walking up to Joey and Jim at ISTE in 2018, and I said, "Hey, when you're ready to hire another journey, I'm ready." And, like, that is a really bold statement to just walk up and say to someone. And I had these nerves about it. And I remember actually even leaving for ISTE, I said to Josh, "I'm gonna go find a job." Like, it was, like, very, like, "This is what I need to do." Feeling it in my spirit that there is a next step that I need to take, and I'm ready for it, and I'm gonna make it happen on this trip. And he was like, "Okay, go, do you?" And so I walked up and said that to them. I said, "I'm ready." And the response was, "You have no idea how much your name has come up in leadership meetings lately." And I was like, "Me? What do you mean?" Like, and it was just that moment of validation. And from there, obviously, I ended up joining the team and I worked there for 6 amazing years. And, you spoke a little bit to the importance of community. And that is the place, it's always something that I thought was important. I have the word love tattooed on me. Like everyone ad nauseum, I'm always speaking about relationships, 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 loving people. That's all that matters. But working for Flipgrid really showed me even more the importance of community and how we're just so much better together. And it's like these things that but when you actually just see it in action and consistently, it's just this really beautiful thing and fuels that within you. And then, tech is a volatile space. And I got laid off, as many of us did, in January of 24. And it was devastating, honestly, if I'm being completely transparent. It was one of the hardest days. I was at a conference. I had just walked off stage presenting and got that email and realized what was happening. And I took my hour or so and cried and sat there and whatever. And then, I had this moment of like, okay, wait a second. My entire network is in this building right now. Let me get up, wipe off my tears, and I need to go and talk to my people
Yeah.
because my community is here and they're going to catch me. Right. And so it just began these really incredible conversations. And it was a huge pivot that I was not expecting whatsoever. But it was also like, it's really interesting to have this moment of feeling invalidated only to immediately feel validated within an hour's time. Because I felt like, wow, all of this work that I've been doing that I thought was recognized and all of these things, I was just a number. It didn't matter. You have those like moments, those things that you tell yourself. But then when I walked into that expo hall and I was like, "Hey everyone, I'm free." People were like chomping at the bit to have a conversation with me. They're like, "What do you mean you're available? I get it that you're sad, but like we need you." And so it was this feeling of like, "Okay, I am doing good in the world." and good for students. And it was really nice to have that immediate recognition. Um, and it goes back to this like serendipitous moment, right? So there was another one in which I had reached out to one of my friends who was like, "Oh my gosh, when they gave me the green light to hire a team, you were one of the first people I thought of, but you had a job and you were happy in it." And so it was just kind of like, wait a second. And so I immediately interviewed and I ended up getting that role. And it goes back to that same thing, the same feeling of starting at the tech magnet. I don't know anything about operations. I was like, what do you mean I'm going to do operations? I play video games sometimes, but I also don't know how to code video games. And so there was like all of that stuff, right? That like, is this something that I can do when I don't know that I have that much knowledge about it? And then as I'm interviewing and I'm answering their questions and I'm like sharing my experience, I'm like, wait a second, I know a lot about operations.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually am a good fit for this role, but like you just have that, like, whatever. And I realized it was gonna be such a good challenge. And I remember even, like, 6 months into the role or whatever, having a conversation with Steven, and he's like, community. Is that something that you wanna do?" And I was like, "No, I wanna stay where I'm being challenged with the thing that I feel like I don't know that well." And so it was just this, like, beautiful thing, and so it's been a year and a half, and I love what I do, like, so much, and it's crazy when I look back, each thing has been my dream job. Right? And then, like, something shifts and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm losing my dream job." And I'm like, "Oh no, here's another one." Turns out there's a lot that I love to do. So a very long answer to this crazy path that I've been on, but I'm really happy where I'm at.
Listen, that is not a long, 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 long. I think you hit every single point in the sense of just being prepared for the unknown, right? And I think that a lot of people, especially when they leave their classroom jobs to go into tech, they don't understand that the tech space is the unknown. It is filled with, like you said, like you're a number, your ID number, or even just, the first initial of your first name and then your last name. But this idea of you're here one moment and you are making impact and others outside in the community are seeing that. But sometimes you have to understand that it is a business. It is a business at the center. Whether or not we're saying like love is at the heart of it, it is a business. And this is a cutthroat business. And either this company or this organization is going to be around for 10 years or 20 years or just two. And I love that you mentioned your experience with Flip. Like every time I hear someone just talk about Flipgrid, I get goosebumps. And I'm grateful that I was able to experience that. I was able to be in rooms with you all. I was able to experience what being around competent and caring adults feel like, but also people who have become part of my family, right? And there's not a lot of people that can say that about their workspaces, especially in the tech world. Because
Mhm.
after Flip, I went into another organization. I was like, hold up, wait a minute. It's time for me to go. Speaking of
Uh-huh.
pivots, I gotta
Uh-huh.
so
Huh.
Jess and I are the total opposite because I take the heat like I'll quit and not even know what's set up next. Like I'm quitting because for me, especially as a woman of color, my go-to is you will not take advantage of me. That has always been my go-to, and I have to protect my peace. And now as a mother, I always say, what happens if I was to engage in a conversation with my daughter 10 or 20 years from now? And she's like, Mom, why didn't you leave? Right? I know you were sad, even though right now she can't tell. But just this idea of what happens when my daughter has questions or when she's going through something, I want to be able to tell her like it's going to be all right. And these are the moves that I've made. And they were all like uncertain. I did not know if I was going to work for someone else, if I was going to have my own business, but you have to pull things together and you got to make things happen, especially as women. Right. And I'm emphasizing women and women of color a lot because in this tech space, we know it is dominated by men, dominated by white men. And so to be the very few women of color, not only in this space, but making real impact says a lot. And Jess Boyce is one of those women that I believe has made impact, strategic impact, impact out of love. But also she continues to inspire me. And I tell y'all one thing, I did not think she would end up doing anything with games. But once that popped up on my LinkedIn feed, I was like, hold up, wait a minute now. So since we're on the topic of impact, and then I just obviously brought up like game, we had to do like a question around impact of play, right? So you're at Endless Access. How have you seen game design transform learners' confidence? Like I've heard so many people talk about esports and
Mhm.
gaming, and especially here in New York, I've experienced like the Minecraft builds challenges
Mm,
that we have here in New York. But, how have you seen game design transform learners' confidence, voice, their sense of agency?
yeah. So I think like it's this interesting thing, right? Where we know that play is important. We know that as we get older, we become less playful, we become less curious, and we're worse off for it, in my opinion, right? So one of our learning principles straight up at the company is that play matters. And I remember in the interview, they pulled up all the principles and they said, which one of these sticks out the most to you, right? Which one means the most? And that even the fact that in an interview, they're looking through the principles and wanting to have that discussion was something that, like, really it really filled me up, right? And one of the one that I think I picked the most, I was, like, really struggling because 'cause they're good. They're real good. But one of the other ones is that everyone belongs, and that is something that is so deeply ingrained in who I am as a person. And so what's really unique about Endless Access, it's not specifically like an esports situation. It is teaching game design. So we're not while yes, we do have games and there's can be game jams and competitions and what have you, it's not solely focused on playing the game all the time. Although play matters, right? It is weaved in there as well. But it's more about looking at the whole piece, the whole child. And so we're looking at game design specifically as it pertains to collaboration and creativity and art and music and storytelling and all of these different things that are really important skills that can translate into other things later in life. So it's not even like, oh, we're trying to build up all of these engineers that then go and work for a Fortune 5 tech company. If that happens, sure, great. That's wonderful. But that's not what the goal is. Right? The goal is all of those other soft skills, but then it also is very specifically targeted at underrepresented communities. And so looking at how is it important to bring in tech skills, working a mouse, things like that, right? So, like, let's talk about tech in general because that's something that isn't going away for better or for worse, right? And so we kind of look at it from this whole different piece, whether that be sometimes it's schools that have a tech lab, sometimes it's a one-to-one place. Sometimes it's a homeless camp in South Africa where there's no tech at all, but we're talking about, hey, let's look at game design on a granular level and still talk about all of those competencies and all of those skills. And so I think it creates this really beautiful space where students they're engaged because they're playing. That's ingrained in us as human beings from the time that we're little. I mean, I think back to like all my child psychology classes, right? And like the importance of play, and we have parallel play, and we have all of this and all of these things that like they are there from the time we are small, small, small
Mhm.
humans. And so the engagement's already going to be off the charts because it's like this is innately who I am. But then we kind of sneak in all those other skills too, right? All right, now you're gonna work on this game, but you're gonna work on it collaboratively. You're gonna learn how to use GitHub. You're gonna learn how to do these things. So we have this game that's called Threadbare, and it's this beautiful story about the world has been stripped of its fabric, of its beauty, of its culture, and working to collect these pieces back in order to build this beautiful tapestry. And so as students are going through our game design curriculum, they're actually learning how to create games, how to code, and like I said, all of the other pieces, storytelling, art, etc. But then they can actually play this game that exists, but it's an open source game and a game making community. So they're also contributing to it. So we're looking at learners as players, but also learners as contributors, as creators. And so they're creating their own where they can tell their culture, they can tell their experiences. So whether that be the university, we partner with a technology university in Peru. So maybe they want to do a story level specifically about Peruvian cuisine. Or we have a bunch of schools in the Middle East. Maybe they want to do a level about the Arabic language, different things. And all of these students globally can play it and learn from one another. And it's this really beautiful thing. So it always ties back to community too, right? So it's this beautiful game making community. So there's going to be more confidence that happens because I'm talking to someone across the world who's teaching me something, but then I'm sharing what I have, my expertise as well. So maybe I'm really good at animation or I'm really good at whatever, and I want to share that with them. This conversation can happen. So it's a really beautiful thing.
God, I love that. You're pulling at my heartstrings. Anything with global exchanges,
Yep.
I'm for it.
Exactly.
And we literally just I created a Code Africa global event. We just finished it 2 weeks ago, and students were coding games, and then they used Book Creator app to tell the story about their games and why they chose it. And it was awesome. It was 51 different classrooms across, 5 continents, and to see just students being able to code, right? And parents, because not only did we open it up to schools, my big, I guess I put an emphasis on this is open to everyone. And just a lot of the folks that I partnered with in Nigeria, because it was specific to talking and communicating with students in Nigeria, were just like, thank you, right? That we needed this. The students need the skills, but also opens up the parents' mind to coding and AI and what does that look like, and how do we best prepare students who are in rural areas to have access to things like soft skills, but also skills that they need for future ready, right? However, future ready is defined in a community. So thank you, because in my heart I was like, yes, girl.
And we partner with a gaming studio in Nigeria as well. And so I'm like, girl, we gotta talk.
We gotta talk. We gotta talk.
So all of that is like, it's amazing.
Thank you. All right, we gotta go deeper,
Yep.
right? Because y'all, I'm calling Jess the pivoting queen. Um, and I know that when you're constantly pivoting or constantly moving, sometimes you feel that imposter syndrome, right? Or that self-doubt. And I'm not going to ask you to go into when was a time where you felt that, but I do want to ask you, how did you push through to reclaim your narrative and moving forward?
Well, there's been many, many a time that I've felt that, I think, as we all have. But I think that something that's really important is that I surround myself with people who are going to lift me up in those moments that I don't feel that I belong or that I know what I'm talking about. And so I know I always have my cheering section and I can call someone and be like, hey, I don't think I know what I'm doing. And they're like, okay, well, here's this, and this. Like, read me my intro that you just said for the podcast. You know what you're doing, like those kinds of moments that
Right.
sometimes we need that, just that reaffirming, like, okay, yeah, we all have things to learn. We all have shortcomings, whatever, but we all have a lot that we got going on and that we can share with the world too, right? And so taking those moments to recognize that, something that I do sometimes in those moments is I'll go back through and just look at pictures because, I'm always taking pictures of things, even if it's like me on stage and I took a selfie with the people that I was presenting to, stuff like that, that I'm like, no, look, you were up here in front of these people who chose to come and sit in a space where you are speaking and listen to you. Like, they were viewing you as a person of authority on this specific topic. And so, like, I just kind of have to remind myself because I think that, like, sometimes what we do, and I think this is just like as women too, it's like, okay, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. I got to keep going. Great. I did that. I succeeded. Probably wasn't good enough. Let me go do something different. And like taking those moments to reflect and be like, I'm badass. Look what I just did. That's an okay thing to do. Right. And so when I have had those moments where I have to pivot so strongly, I don't know, I just have something in my spirit that I'm like, I know that, like, I'll be fine. This moment might be devastating. I mean, exactly as I talked about when I got laid off, like, that was a really hard moment, but then I was like, "Hold on, you got this, like, go figure it out," you know? And that's just, like, a mentality that I have because I've seen how things work out the way they're supposed to, and there's, like, constantly a thread, and so, I don't know, I just trust that it'll be alright, even when it doesn't feel like it.
But I love that, right? We all need kind of like this sense of positivity, and to know that at the end of this dark tunnel there's going to be some light, and it may not be exactly what we might have envisioned, but you're going to get out the darkness, right? One way or another.
Yep.
I know
I got
that.
these 3 little birds right here to remind me, that Bob Marley song, "Don't worry about little things, every little thing's gonna be alright." So when I need to when I need a reminder, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, alright, I got it." Everything
Yeah.
will be all right.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, right? Because I'm gonna have to snippet this so that women all around the world can just remind themselves, even if, like Jess said, even if it takes a moment where you could just look at a picture and that picture, use that to remind yourself of your awesomeness. And I do the same thing. I go to my group chats. Like I'm constantly
Mhm.
I think my friends are probably like, all right, what's next? Like one of my friends always says, girl, you're all over the place. Just send me bullet points. I got another friend who's just like, look, just put me on your calendar and let's share calendars. And then she just randomly asks me, okay, so how did your consultations go today? And I'm like, what? But it helps, right? Because sometimes and it may not even be imposter syndrome. Sometimes you're just so caught up with work and you don't have a time to just sit down, reflect, and say, "Okay, this right or went wrong," or for me, I don't have that time, and so usually when things go left, is when I go, "Okay, I need to sit down."
Yeah.
Right? But if it's all going right and I'm just, like, moving on from one thing to the next, and I have a bad habit of not celebrating myself, and I think that that's a woman of color thing. I think women, we are just like, "Oh, well, if I don't do it, it's not gonna get done, so I have to do it," right? And then we spend so much time accomplishing this thing, whatever it is, even if it's, like, trying out a new pasta recipe, we do it so damn well, and then it's like, "Okay, I have to move on to the next thing." And we don't take that 5 minutes or that the 5 days to celebrate our accomplishments, and I know
Exactly.
that's one of my goals this year is to celebrate however if it's buying a bottle of champagne or a glass of wine and eating, some cheese and crackers, something, sit down, reflect, and then move on.
I found this app that you can share with people. So, like, you can make these little groups, right? And it's each day you talk about your little wins or what made you smile or what brought you joy, whatever. And so I get like a little, yeah, it's called gratitude or gratitude plus, maybe. And so I have like a group with my yoga girls. I have a group with my best friend, and like it'll pop up and you can see what they're talking about. And so then it's like, and it's every day, so then it, like, kinda makes you have in the forefront, even if you just take like, I find myself being like, "Oh, I need to take a picture of this because I wanna make sure that I share this later." And so it's, like, celebrating these teeny tiny things, but then it makes you, like it kinda shifts something in you, you know?
I'm like, let me not get emotional during this session.
Listen, I've already teared up a couple of times. First one was just when the camera popped up and I saw your face.
So, if you've been tuning in, you know that one thing that we do on this show is we play a short game. Normally, the games are like 30 seconds to like 4 or 5 minutes. But the idea is that the games are all about who our guests are or who our guest is. And for this one, obviously, because it's Jess, I had to think about pivoting. I had to think about game design or game making, but we don't have any dice to roll. But this is still going to be what I'm calling a lightning reflection round. And for each round, Jess is going to choose one of the three choices that I give her. And at the end, Jess is kind of like going to not only defeat whatever the villain is to the story, but she'll definitely be able to just give us a story by just choosing things throughout the round. Are you ready, Jess?
Yeah, I don't even fully understand and I'm nervous, but I'm excited. Let's go. Let's do it.
So with each round, I'll give you three choices to choose from. I'll tell you what the category is. You're going to choose, and then it's kind of like building a story. And at
Okay.
the end, you'll be able to choose who the villain in that story is and how you defeated that villain or that boss, right? Because we're so far
Perfect.
All right. So the first round is classes. So Jess, you're going to pick a class that best defines your first career chapter. Okay. So it's three options. One is support teacher, two is innovation engineer, or three is community leader.
Innovation engineer.
And I would love for you, because I'm kind of like pivoting away from the game and then coming right back, to
Okay.
explain how being an innovation engineer shaped the skills that you have today.
It made me realize that there's always something to be learning. There's always some way that we can be doing better. Always, always, always. And just kind of like it's been a really cool thing to be able to be a part of that and be like, yeah, okay, let's think of new ideas, let's implement them, and they're scary and hard, and we're all going to be better for it.
So now we have to pick your signature skill. All right. The first is empathy aura. The second is strategy strike. The third is resilience shield.
I know it's the empathy aura. As soon as you said it, I was like, that one. Don't even say the other options. It's that one.
So can you share a moment where you had to put empathy at the forefront of whatever that situation was?
That's hard for me because that is like always at the forefront of everything I do. Actually, you know what? I had someone yesterday give me a call that they were struggling, and I actually don't know them that well. And they were like, "Hey, can I call you real quick?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And they were upset about something, and I ended up talking to them on the phone for an hour. And it was just this interesting moment of like, out of all these people, you chose someone that you don't really know that well because you knew like that I was empathetic and that I was going to listen. And so it was kind of cool for me to be able to show up for someone in that way. It was like I had to give her my phone number. It was the first conversation we ever had on the phone, but like she specifically sought me out because she knew I was like a calming voice. So
Now, how am I supposed to proceed with the game after care about no goblin or villain now?
hey, you made the choices.
I'm like, girl, get it together. All right. The three bosses that you
Okay.
can choose from that you've had to conquer the most, right?
Mhm.
And this is not naming a particular person. This is just us throwing
Oh,
it
you're
out.
not going to list off my three bosses I've had. Just kidding.
We don't want anyone to mark this podcast as imposter syndrome dragon,
Mhm.
pivot panic golem, or feedback phantom. So, what would you say is one of those bosses where you've had to conquer most fiercely to become who you are today?
A feedback phantom. Because don't ever tell me anything mean. Don't criticize me. Don't give me feedback that'll make me sad. I think that that's been like something that just, I'm a super, because it comes with the empathy aura, right? I'm a super emotional person, or I'm very sensitive. And so that's been something hard for me that like constructive feedback is a really good thing. And that's how we get better and that's how we grow. But I always have a moment where I'm like, "Oh, no, that person hates me." And it's like, no, they're actually just helping you to become better at what you do, right? And so, no, don't be sad, it's okay, that's a thing that happens. And so that's just been, like, a really good thing for me to have to work through because, like, all need feedback, I don't care who you are. Beyoncé gets feedback. That's how we get better, and so it's just been, like, a really good learning experience for me over the years as even good feedback, bad feedback, whatever, but it's just like, how can I take this? How can I listen and shape who I am and what I'm doing to better myself and those around me?
And if you're a leader, remember with feedback, it's all in the delivery,
Yeah.
right? 'Cause it could be positive feedback and you delivered it in a way where, okay, I know that it went great. And it could be negative feedback. But the way you deliver it, I can say, okay, this still went great because they gave me actionable feedback. They gave me ways that I can work on these things. They didn't tear me down where now I don't want to do my job or I'm walking around feeling like, dang, this person is really looking at everything that I do, right? Because I've been in both positions before where I'm like, "So what do I do next?" Right? Everything that you said was just negative, and it makes it harder for me now to do my job or to go back.
Especially if you already have imposter syndrome, right?
"Hello,
And so then you're
hello."
like, wait, those things I thought was right.
And I know we're almost at time, but I want to ask Jess one more question before we close out. Looking ahead, what legacy are you building for just women in this space, right? In education and tech? How do you hope to see the field just shift in the next 5 years?
Whew, okay. So for me, I want my legacy in this space to be about showing up in ways that matter. And what I mean from that is like supporting one another. I mean, it's been what we've talked about this entire podcast, community and love and relationships. Those things are really, really important. And I think that, I remember actually whenever I went to my first ed camp in 2015 and, I met this woman and we were talking and we called each other our island buddies, right? Because we talked about how when you are out of school and you're doing something innovative, you often feel really alone and you feel like you're on an island by yourself, right? And then I went to this like randomly. I don't even know how I ended up at a camp, to be honest with you. I like saw it on Eventbrite. I was like, what does this mean? And I went into it and it changed everything for me. But it was like, wait a second, these are my people. I'm not on an island by myself. Like there are a lot of people just like me who are looking for the same kinds of things. And so I think that that really has like shaped a lot of who I am and what I do specifically in the tech space is looking for my people. And I've found them, but it continues to grow and continues to get better. And so like I just really feel like supporting and being there and showing up for other people. Like I want the random strangers to give me a call because they know that I'm going to listen to them. A woman of color who was struggling in a tech space, you know, and I was like, wow, I'm so thankful that you chose to reach out to me because you needed that support. And so I really hope that we see those kinds of things continually. Yeah, goodness, what I wanna see in the next 5 years, I wanna see more women in higher roles, of course, this is what I always wanna see. I think we've got a long way to go, but I look back over the past 10 years even, and I feel like we've come really far, but I'm excited on where we're going, but we got work.
We got work to do. We really got some work to do. Like just emphasized, right? We are a community. And so don't hesitate to reach out. Like I've had people come to me and say, oh my God, but you're so famous. And I don't want to, first of all, I'm not famous. Definitely not famous. But reach out because even if I don't have the answer, I might be able to tap into Jess or someone who
And take
does
care.
have an answer or a connection, right? And I'm not saying quit your job and then I'm going to help. No,
Don't show up on the doorstep, right?
but I'm here is like we're here to support, right? Because as a community and as a village, I remember going to elementary school and that quote, "It takes a village to raise a child." Guess what? It also takes a village to build each other up, right? Hello, hello, because we all need villages. We all need villages. But thank you, Jess. I'm able to breathe. That wraps our conversation with my incredible friend, Jess Boyce. From the classroom to the global stage of game making, she's shown us how to pivot with purpose, reclaim our stories, and ignite joy through digital play. If Jess's journey inspired you, please hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a friend who could use a power up. Thank you all for joining us today.
Bye.